On Tuesdays and on Thursdays, we love talking to one of our great storytellers on the show. He is John Litke, a former newspaper publisher. He's a journalist. He publishes a lot of articles and also a broadcaster. Hey, John, welcome.
Good morning, Gene.
Okay, as usual, you've come up with something very, very interesting. You're calling it the relevancy of irrelevancy, the NDP's Severance Delusion. So you've just published this rather scathing take on the NDP convention over the weekend in Winnipeg. It's called the Clinical Severance Procedure. And for those who haven't seen the HBO show Succession, what on earth does Succession and that mean for the party? I can't wait for this one.
It's a political lobotomy, Gene. In the show, the characters have their brains split so their work selves don't have to know their home selves. It's the dream, right? Someone else does the work for you. You get all the time off work. That's essentially the NDP right now. On the inside, the INNIEs, you've got the faculty lounge activists. On the outside are the OUTIEs, the industrial workers in towns like Windsor and Oshawa who are staring down a 2026 gun of a trade war. It's Severance meets the Communist Manifesto light, because let's be honest, even Avi Lewis won't commit to nationalization, just a public option expansion, but I digress. But the directors here forgot to include the people who actually are building the sets of this real-life sitcom, the workers. The NDP isn't just on a different set themselves, they're in a different political reality today.
Yeah. Now, I watched a little bit of the convention, and I was just shaking my head because I couldn't figure out what they were talking about. Now, you were critical of what they called the equity cards used at the convention. Why did that bug you so much?
You know, it was just because it's performative theater in the world that's under an administrative siege. There's nothing wrong with ensuring that minority voices are heard, but there were moderators in this case lecturing grown adults on how to form straight lines and then being concerned that they said the word straight because that would run against LGBT orthodoxy, I suppose.
I saw
it was ridiculous. They reprimanded people publicly for misgendering the chair when it was an honest mistake, while again, the geopolitical turmoil is at the door right now. But equity cards aren't going to lower the price of milk or gasoline. This is a faculty lounge obsession. If you're at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy instead of at the top of an ivory tower, and you're wondering how to pay rent, being told you can speak 2 minutes earlier because of your card feels less like progress and more like a joke. This is just a proxy for actual power, and workers know this.
Yeah. You know, I'm not making fun of delegates, okay, because, you know, they run their convention a certain way, and good for them. But, I mean, what I couldn't understand was one gentleman getting up, and he was being very sincere. He said, I'm a man of color, white, I'm Korean, but not by blood. And then he went on to describe a problem he had with premature ejaculation. I'm just thinking, what on earth does this have to do with electing the leader of the NDP? And in any event, you described the new leader, Avi Lewis, who I know, by the way, as trading Jagmeet Singh's Rolexs for his academic radicalism. So I'm picking up on the fact you think he's the wrong guy at the wrong time.
We've just witnessed a coronation that proves the elevator of the NDP still only goes to the penthouse and not to the shop floor. They traded custom suits for a guy from Upper Canada College Dynasty who talks about factories full of sunlight. This is it's just they're propping up 1970s radicalism and hoping that the workers won't notice the smell of tenure wrapped up all around this. Lewis wants AI full stop. He wants wealth taxes, but he's talking to a base that's just worried about their factory closing right now. This is academic hopium for people who are just hoping that the paycheck shows up again next week.
You know, one thing that I found interesting, and we talked a little bit about this with Dave Trafford earlier. Once Avi Lewis was elected, and he still eventually is going to have to win a seat, and the party is in terrible debt as well. Yeah. But New Democrats in places like Alberta and Saskatchewan, you know, they crossed their eyes, rolled their eyes back in their head, shook their heads back and forth, and said, no. This is not our New Democratic Party in Western Canada.
We're watching watching provincial restraining orders and firewalls being built up, Gene. Naheed Nenshi and the Saskatchewan NDP, equally from Alberta, are essentially building digital moats around their provinces to keep themselves away from the federal brand, sinking their local chances. This is like when I chatted with you about the whiskey war in the Arctic. This is polite on the surface, but everyone's marking their territory right now. When your own provincial cousins are treating you like a pariah the second that Avi Lewis took the stage, you know that you've reached a level of toxicity that's usually reserved for subprime assets. But let's be honest, they're measuring the distance from Ottawa in light years because reality and the faculty lounge that I was chatting about just don't mix.
Interesting quote in your article here. You claim Carney, our Prime Minister, is buying the party for parts. Now, that's really something. I mean, in your opinion, do you think the NDP has really become that irrelevant?
Well, look at the numbers. 9% is a total woof moment, if I'm going to quote Kevin McAllister from Home Alone here. This is the political equivalent of a red wedding. Mark Carney is the ultimate elite, but he's speaking the language of a managerial class that's actually winning, Gene. The NDP is busy with this INNIEs versus OUTIEs drama, but the Liberals are picking them apart for parts, like I said. It's like a fire sale, and they're picking up members who are crossing the floor while the NDP is acting like a niche pressure group. This is a new style of politics that's moving on without them. They're standing still while the floor is being pulled out from underneath them. So, yeah, Carney is being able to pick it up, and I think pretty soon he'll be at his majority government. Yeah.
You say the NDP is decorating a room that's already been demolished. Yikes! That's brutal, John. So what's your final takeaway for the average Canadian worker who, in the past, would look towards the NDP as the party that supported unions and supported the working class of Canadians?
The takeaway is that the severance procedure is complete. Inside the House, you've got the Avi Lewis party decorating a room with fair trade coffee and equity cards, but outside, the worker is staring at an empty lunchbox because filling the gas tank to get to work that day was more important than faculty lounge procedures. This is a delusion in real time. The NDP used to be the party of the worker, but now they're the party of the seminar and lecture. If they don't find a way to bridge this gap, they're going to be the most relevant party in history. A cautionary tale of how to lose the heartland while winning the faculty lounge, Gene.
And speaking of all of that, and I'm going to be mentioning this a lot during the show today, tomorrow is April 1st, April Fool's Day. There will be no jokes or pranks on the show. Tomorrow, MPs, cabinet ministers, the Prime Minister, the Governor General, and every MLA at Queen's Park will be giving themselves, at our expense, a great big, fat, hairy, garlicky pay raise. And John, tune in tomorrow because I'm naming names and I'm telling everybody what each member is going to be taking from various purses and wallets throughout Ontario and across Canada tomorrow.
Well, isn't that just the greatest joke of them all, Gene?
You got it. April 1st. Maybe that's why they did it on that day.
Has to be.
All right. John, great talking to you. We're going to see you on Thursday, and we're going to talk either about the marijuana industry or Donald Trump. One of the two.
One of the two.
And when you think about it, I think Trump's doing gummies.
There you go. When I think about Trump, I have to do gummies.
All right. You have a great day. We'll talk to you on Thursday, all right?
You too. Cheers, Gene. Bye.
Okay, there he goes. John Ledke. He always has a great take on what's happening in Canada.